Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast. My name is Adam Sykes, founder of SwiftCase, the professional productivity platform.
And I'm Craig McCarthy, development manager at SwiftCase.
And I'm Phil Whitby, a developer at SwiftCase.
Great, so today we were going to have a talk about measuring things and metrics and whether they're a good idea, what you should be looking at and how to take value from things. So I think this was something that you sort of came up with, Phil, wasn't it?
Yeah, I sort of was thinking the other day how I bought a nice smartwatch for myself for my 40th birthday.
Very nice.
And it was like, I was like, oh, this is different because it's not like a normal smartwatch with a screen, but it's more about the measurement of my vitals.
That was a smart one.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Anyway, we'll go through it in great detail later. You'll become an evangelist. But what's really interesting about it is it's got like a 3-week battery life. And my major bugbear with smartwatches is that I just can't be bothered having another device that I have to charge every night. Which doesn't give me much more than the phone does anyway, that I've always got on me. Anyway, so the thing that drew me to it was the fact that it monitors my sleep. It tells me how much sleep, the quality of sleep I'm getting. It monitors my heart rate. So it gives me my average heart rate for every half an hour.
Yeah.
And also, I was less interested in this because I'm now effectively sedentary. Is that it gives me calories, steps, all that, and what activities I've been doing. And I've had it for a few months. I do check it, but I usually just check it to see the quality of sleep. But then it doesn't really motivate me to do anything other than just go, well, that was a bad night's sleep. I already knew that it was a bad night's sleep.
Yeah.
I wanted.
Now you've been justified.
Yes, it was a bad night's sleep. Or I just go, this is wrong. So all that's happening is that it's not really changing my behaviour. It's just making me kind of diarise my existence a bit more. I'm sort of like just kind of go, I can show it to people and say, look, this month was awful because my kids were up at 4 a.m. every day. And look, there's evidence that that's the case.
Yeah, but it's not actually helping you to
I don't think
change
it's
that
changing
process.
my life. Now, there are all the developments that are happening with smartwatches alongside that we can talk about a bit later. But I was just wondering, well, what else do we do? What other aspects of our lives are being constantly measured? And do those measurements bring value to whoever's measuring it and ourselves? What do you think?
Yeah, well, there's always that famous quote, what gets measured gets improved, doesn't it? So so the idea behind measuring things is that then you take an action, but I suppose it's when the measure is not actually a true measure. So I think various things that we've looked at in the past on business, but I think if we start with personal things, there's a big thing recently on the news about the sort of the health apps and whether they're actually causing people to feel very guilty because they're not doing the steps that they're meant to be doing or they're not eating the right foods. But at the same time, you could argue that guilt is kind of one of the motivators to change.
Fear, isn't it?
But also these apps aren't always that accurate.
No,
so for example, the step counters was the sort of the original type of health app monitoring device type approach. And if you shook your phone or you shook your arm, you did so many millions of steps or whatever. So it was totally inaccurate as to saying how many steps you do. And then if you then use that and it was giving you the calorie burn, the people will then say, well, I've done all these steps, I can now have this cake. And actually, they probably ended up putting on weight because they really hadn't burnt these calories. So they didn't have this extra, or there's the other ones where you program in all your food and it takes you 4 years to have a meal because you've made something from scratch, so you haven't got the barcode you can scan to say how many calories are in it. So then you go, better buy just things with barcodes on. So you start eating ready meals because you can scan them quicker.
Wasn't it that reminds me of that Juicero? Did you see the Juicero scandal, I guess you could call it, where there was a Silicon Valley startup that created a physical product for a change, which was called a Juicero, and it was just a juicer that squeezed a bag of juice into your glass, and they would deliver, by subscription obviously, a bag of pre-juiced juice. And all that this would do is be a pump that squeezed in, and you could literally just squeeze it in by hand, right? Amazing. But it was sold as this kind of like lifestyle thing, you can scan it all, and it would all go off after a certain amount of time, and it cost $300, I think, just for the juicer. So, and it was a scandal. But it's part of I think that's part of this craze of constant measurement, constant self-reflection about diet, and I'm not sure it's necessarily healthy.
No,
I
No, it is everywhere at the moment, isn't it? Really, it's crazy. Did you find with the watch in comparison to the phone, anything was a bit more accurate?
Actually, they both communicate with each other. So what happens is on the app, on the phone, the app takes the data from the phone first, and so when I load it up, it then tells me what the phone thinks I've done, and then it updates from the watch, and then it corrects with the watch. So they end up being around about the same, but they're off by like 10-20%.
Yeah.
But like you say, I think it is the accuracy. Like in the end, I'm ignoring it because maybe I don't believe it, so therefore I can discard it because it's not really evidence of
See,
it.
that was always my problem, because I really enjoyed the step count thing, and it did actually encourage me to go out, because it wasn't so much, oh god, how many calories have I burned today?
Yeah.
It was more about beating my personal best
Right, that's
from last
interesting,
week.
yeah.
So I think that's when it does work, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was fantastic, because it was like, oh god, I did this many steps last week. Oh, I need to get up to that many this week. Or look at me all-time best there. Maybe if I do a little bit more, I'll beat that. So I think that's one of the positive effects, really. But I completely understand this.
So if it's not that accurate, you'd be like,
Well, exactly. How do I know that was really the?
I suppose that's the difference though between the sleep and the steps. Is it's what's being measured is a better measure. So when you're doing the steps, if you get that number higher, then the process of you getting that number higher is obvious. You need to go out and do more steps. From the measurement of you've had a good sleep, it doesn't tell you what you should do to.
That's interesting.
It's not saying you need to. It would be better saying you've measured the amount of screen time you've had, and you could say, well, I've reduced my screen time, and I'm measuring my screen time, and that's what I should be looking at, because at night less screen time leads to better sleep. There's no point in saying there's better sleep's the target. It's like saying, oh, I'm exercising, and you only measure yourself by I don't know how good you look, how good you look, or how many abs you've got. Yeah. So I think sometimes having the right measure is important, and I know been involved with some things in our sort of local area in the community, and one of the measures they were using was we were trying to reduce litter, and so the measure they chose was the number of fixed penalty notices that people be getting for litter.
So it becomes a target, doesn't it?
But then if you increase the number of penalty notices people are getting, that actually means that more people are dropping litter.
So how do they say it's success then?
Well, that they were saying an increase in fixed penalty notices would be an increase in a decrease in people dropping litter. But I always used to argue, but that doesn't make sense, because if no one was dropping litter and the area was cleaner, we'd have no fixed penalty notices. But if we had no fixed penalty notices, that also might mean that all the people who were issuing the fines were all sitting back doing nothing.
Exactly.
So the measure was totally useless, because if it was high, it meant loads of people were dropping litter, and if it was low, you couldn't say that was really because because people weren't dropping litter, or whether people weren't actually issuing fines. So the actual measure should have been how much litter was around, and what were people's perceptions of how clean the area was. You only need, and if you measure the wrong thing, you can't find a way to improve that, and you start trying to improve the number.
Exactly. That becomes it.
And then that becomes the goal, is improving the number, isn't it? And
that
this is a key thing.
I think we mentioned it before, maybe in another podcast, I'm not sure, about the python issue in India, where there was an infestation, or what would you call it, like
outbreak of pythons.
Python infection. And the solution by the Indian government was to pay people for a python. So, because they couldn't, it's such a huge country, you couldn't pay, get all these pest control people to go out. So they said, okay, well, we'll offer it. So what happened was, you can imagine what would happen. People would breed pythons to then go and take the government and get paid for them. And then to the government, well, this isn't working. The same number of pythons that still exist, if not more. So we'll stop giving people money. So what happened was they released all the pythons they've been breeding into the wild, and therefore increased the issue, right? Yeah. So there is a perfect example of it actually defeating the purpose. You're saying, well, actually, if we, so it becomes a target to have pythons, just like it becomes a target to find someone for dropping litter. So you'd be like, somebody, I saw the news the other day, I heard someone was fined for throwing an egg McMuffin to the seagulls, and the seagulls ate it all, but they still got the fine for littering. That's not a great example, but you can imagine someone being, if it becomes a target like it is, then more people just become fined, and it doesn't change anything.
No.
Yeah, and in fact, it might even make people so angry that they purposely litter to get back at the council or whatever that is put them in that position.
Yeah.
And I used to find the same thing in education, which is a different thing, where it'd be like a new target that would then have to be gained because it was unfair to use that target to measure a teacher's performance or even a student's performance.
Yeah, you get teaching to the target,
exactly.
Teaching to the exams.
Well, I mean, even if one person was gaming it,
everyone else would feel stupid not doing it because that person was getting all the rewards. You know, so you'd have with coursework. I mean, there's a scandal about coursework because that literally students were all coming out with A's who were in the exam were getting E's because they were literally being drip fed the information to write the best possible coursework. In the end, they would, to avoid being caught, the teachers would stratify what they had drip feed for different levels of kids, so it would look more realistic.
I didn't know that.
That is how it works. Yeah, but they've changed it now so that it's less weighted towards coursework and all this kind of stuff.
Of course.
So probably in an attempt to take away that kind of behaviour. But all that's going to happen is going to incentivise another kind of behaviour.
Yeah, it just incentivises learning the exam questions, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the other thing we were talking about, so taking it back towards like production and business, there's the classic examples of the communists, and they had their factories and they were making the nails. So originally it was we want you to make as many nails as you can. You need to make this many nails. So what they did was they made loads of tiny nails because from one amount of raw materials they can make lots of tiny little nails. They didn't need to process as much material, and they could so they ended up with all these tiny nails. So then they changed it to we'll do it on weight. So then the next bit they make one massive big nail just to fulfill the target, and and so picking your target is a key thing, isn't it? If you have the wrong target, then obviously you're not going to get the right goal that you want at the end of the day. You've got to pick the overarching goal, I suppose. And for teaching, that's not the exam result, is it? That's someone having a happy and successful life, understanding the ways to learn and being a well-rounded individual. That's very hard to put a measure on the teacher because it's such a big, it takes
immediately as well. I mean, because you need accountability. You need to know whether they're a good teacher now, not in 40 years. They were a good teacher.
Exactly.
But that's really the only way to know.
Yeah, and I suppose for businesses, you can look at something short term and you can be hitting your target, but is it really going towards your long-term goal? And I suppose a key thing with this nowadays is around the way people market. So in the past, the only options you really had was an advert in a magazine, on a billboard, or I suppose then got into TV and radio. Unless you had some kind of way of knowing that they saw that particular advert, like you clipped out a coupon from a magazine or a newspaper and sent that in, you would not know your return on investment. It was completely around building a brand and fire out as much as possible, and hopefully something will come back. And the only real thing you could say is we spent all of this money and we've got this amount of information back. You couldn't really tell what was coming from.
There's no control company that doesn't have the marketing that you can compare it to and say, is it that?
Exactly.
There's no conditions where you can be sure.
Exactly. Whereas nowadays we've got the kind of the direct marketing through the internet, where you can put an advert on, you can know who's clicked on it, you can know where they've been, what they've bought, and you can get direct measures for each.
You've just got to put it to good use and use it properly.
But also assume that it's not being gamed by those
exactly,
people. You may have seen those. There'd be click factories where they get hundreds of Android phones, if not thousands, all browsing and clicking on adverts to justify. To get money for somebody who's then set up that whole advertising scam, basically. So I mean, it even came out that Facebook was completely lying about their engagement. In Facebook ads and things like that, totally fictional, and or at least enough of an estimate to be completely.
We'll put the caveat underneath your comments. Get sued by Facebook.
Nobody's going to be. Facebook going such a bad waters now, aren't they? where was it going with that?
So it's on the direct marketing. So you can measure. I mean, leaving aside people trying to dupe you, you can measure. And if you're not measuring the various things as you go through, so whether people are clicking on your advert, whether people are then filling out your form, whether they're responding to you, and ultimately whether they're becoming a client. If you're not doing that, you're basically throwing your money, away, or you may as well burn your money, because you can quite quickly, waste money on adverts that aren't going anywhere. And so it's the power of the internet is there's no limit to how many you can try, so you can. Big thing in tech and big thing that hopefully businesses are adopting now is the sort of the A/B test. So trying lots of things, seeing what works, and then focusing in on what works.
And well, that's the important thing, isn't it? And it applies to everything really. It applies to education, business, and even the personal things as well, like fitness. If you're not really making the changes or pushing on from the data you're gathering from these apps and so on, what's the point?
Yeah.
There's no point.
You need to try something else, don't you?
Yeah.
And only by trying something and seeing what works will you know. And if you're measuring things, you need to make sure you are measuring, something that's a true reflection of what you want to achieve. I suppose is the key from this. Really is, don't try and just get the measurement. Make sure that the measurement is a reflection of the goal, or at least is actually leading to the goal, and focus on the goal, not the small tiny.
Yeah, exactly. If it's someone's job to get to also, if you're employing someone whose job it is to kind of make that impact, and all they have to do is to give you the data about the targets that you've set, then they're motivated to not do it accurately just to get those numbers. I think that's the key thing. Like, it should be part of it's a team thing, isn't it? It's part of a team thing to make sure that everyone's working to the overarching goal, not just that target
and ignoring the whole. And I suppose we picked up this a bit on one of our previous episodes about automation in healthcare, where we said the clerk who was taking the initial thing from the X-ray was quite happy because their job was done. They'd hit their targets, they'd got this many in, and they'd got them all out, and they'd done it all in quick succession. But actually it was affecting the process later on because they weren't doing it in a way that was sustainable for the entire process. So exactly. I think understanding how your individual target fits into the whole, and having using multiple targets and multiple measures,
maybe invisible ones as well. So
Yeah.
maybe the person doesn't know what the target is, or there is an ulterior target.
That's why communication's key, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Okay, great. So I think that's been a great discussion about having the right measures, using measures correctly, and always keeping in mind the actual overarching goal, and not getting too focused on the numbers. Don't be checking your numbers every day and seeing how many hits you get.
I've had bad sleep
again. Look a bit more long term. Okay, great. So I think thanks for everyone for listening. It's been the SwiftCase Productivity Podcast with Adam Sykes, the founder of SwiftCase, professional productivity platform, and we'll see you next time.
And if you want to add to our numbers on social media, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SwiftCase UK. We're also available on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and probably anywhere else you can think of as well.
And we'll be monitoring our return on investment.
Don't forget to check out our website as well, swiftcase.co.uk, for more information about some of the things we do.
Add some comments, because we need to count the comments to make sure we get all the social engagement. And don't forget to subscribe as well, because those numbers are important.
That's great. Thanks very much, everyone, and see you next time.